Welcome, everybody. Dr. Angel Acosta here. Just really excited to be here with my dear, dear brother, Tim Leberecht. Brother, I just want to say how much I am grateful for our friendship and collaboration. I've grown so much from our initial connection with the House of Beautiful Business in 2021 when you hosted Concrete Love and Jessica Orkin introduced us, and I was able to be a speaker. And also before that, allowing me to help you with Esther Perel's interview in New York City. Yeah, I can talk for days about just how much I've learned about curation from watching the house host events. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, no, thank you for this nice welcome, Angel. Yeah, and likewise, as you know, I am a big admirer of your work. So aligned, and it's also, but at the same time, it's also just pushing me into new territory and
Mm,
challenging me and introducing new concerns and topics to my thinking and our work with the House of Beautiful Business. And also, it's really fun. And
Oh my God.
also, and also you're sending a lot of energy my way. Sometimes you are, it's so funny when I hear these voice notes, it's like, hey, sending energy. And I used to laugh at them because, it kind of like, oh, okay. But actually they're helpful. And then even if you're not saying it, I can feel the energy. So
Yeah,
I really appreciate it.
that's funny. I remember when I started doing that, when I started doing that, almost like a decade ago. In the beginning, I was like, well, this feels different, but it just kind of started, and it's just part of my
Yeah, the
thing now.
signature. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, maybe we can start there a little bit around, well, we can get to, talking about fun and how much fun it is to try to change the world, even as it's so dark and difficult. But I really want to acknowledge the legacy of the house and, really trying to center aesthetics and beauty in the world of business. And just wanted to give you a little bit of opportunity to tell the community about how you started the house and your vision for the house. And I know it's grown to think about to incorporate, a life-centered economy. But I just wanted the community to really understand and get an appreciation for just your vision for the house and the way that you built it.
Yeah, so we started in 2017, and I had just written a book called The Business Romantic. So I had worked in corporate America, in fact, in Silicon Valley, more on the creative side and for a design firm, but I also worked very closely with a private equity firm because they were investors in the company that I worked at. So I was kind of close to some of the best and the worst of corporate America and Silicon Valley. And I wrote a book called The Business Romantic, in which I explored how the tropes of romanticism, the arts and literature movement of the 18th, 19th century might apply to what I identified as a new age of disenchantment because of datafication, because of this myopic belief in the measurability of all things, that only things that we can measure have value, which I really fundamentally disagree with. I think we all manage more than we can measure every day. And hopefully life is much more than just empirical evidence. And so I founded the House of Beautiful Business together with my co-founder, Till Grush, who was a former colleague of mine, actually, in 2017 on the heels of the book release as a form of resistance, a very soft, gentle resistance against the regime of this efficiency thinking propagated by the engines of Silicon Valley and corporate America. And we started with a small event in Barcelona in an old guild hall in the old town of Barcelona. And the idea was really to host the most romantic conference, the business conference that the world had ever seen. It was a passion project, and then it has grown into a community and a platform and a think tank, if you will, and hopefully a home, a virtual home for those who want more from business or want more from life through business. And I think I guess sort of three things that I've learned or that concern us. One is beauty. It's the striving for beauty. And when I say beauty or when we say beauty, we don't mean this in a very decorative or cosmetic or superficial kind of way, but the beauty of harmony, the beauty of authenticity, the beauty of resonance, the beauty when you feel an intimate connection with an idea or another person or a community. So when something feels true, when something, when a chord is struck and you are in tune with the universe or the people around you, maybe that's an iteration, or it's an attempt of describing what this fleeting sense of beauty might look like. And we don't have enough in that in business. So we're trying to create experiences of beauty and try to create practices of beauty for our community and those who participate in the house. The second quality that we're after, that we try to emulate, and since this is in the context of capacity building, is really intimacy. We live in this age of division. You could argue that this division is a product, or a byproduct at least, of loneliness in myriad ways. A loneliness that is fueled and aggravated and extracted and commercialized by the big tech platforms and social media, and this commercial incentive to create outrage and division, which further foments loneliness. And I say this often in talks that I give. I love this quote by the writer Richard Bach, who said the opposite of loneliness is not connectivity. It's not just being connected. It's not togetherness for the sake of being together. It's intimacy. Intimacy is really, it requires vulnerability, right? It requires knowing who you are and really wanting to get hurt in a way. I mean, or not wanting to hurt, but accepting that you might get hurt in an encounter with another person or with life. And that you might be wrong, and so there's a humility to it. And so we do this in the form of silent dinners. I think you and I have created experiences together that we're really aiming at fostering intimacy. And I think the intimacy, we can become one, or we can have a sense of really being closer together with others and overcoming, boundaries. So I think that's such a crucial capacity in these times. No matter what you do, whether you nurture a community or you lead a movement, or you are a political activist. In any case, I think you need intimacy as a catalyst of change, of creating cohesion, I think, with a group. So that's the second thing. And the last thing that is important to us, that is a bit of our secret sauce, or that at least we think about quite a bit, is curation. And curation has gotten, and as you know, I'm trying to write a book about it now. Curation is interesting, right? It used to be this craft in a way, and then it became kind of co-opted by the art world, and then there was this cliche idea of the very elitist, jet-setting, hobnobbing, curator who leads this amazing life, and then it decides who gets to become a great artist and who doesn't, and has all this curatorial power. And these figures exist. And then through social media, it became democratized. Now everybody under the sun is a curator, because they curate an oh so stunning social media feed, right? And on Instagram, we're all curators. And I think what we're trying to do, or what is to rehabilitate that term and reintroduce it as something that is really powerful when it comes to discernment, to really understanding and discerning what matters and why. Like, why does something matter? Why is something meaningful? Why should I pay attention to something? Why should I pay attention to this object, to this idea, to this person, and not to this? And the curation is, a great power, because you in a way, you get to decide what gets heard, what gets put on a stage, what gets hung up on a wall in a museum. So there is tremendous power in it. And I think part of honing our curatorial muscles is also to understand that power and the responsibility that comes with it. And the fact that curation starts with, who are you going to invite, to your dinner party? And it ends with, who is the keynote speaker at your conference? Who do you publish in your magazine? Who's a member of your community, and so I think that's what we're trying to understand. And the beauty, intimacy, and curation, if you put the three together somehow, in a non-quantifiable way, you get the house of beautiful business. And it's at its best, if we have a good day.
Oh man, well, I've been able to experience the house directly, so I can feel the sense of profound meaning that you invite people to make with the kinds of experiences you curate and the people that you invite. So I was always really curious about thinking about the house's work as a form of capacity building. This move to center intimacy, curation, and beauty in the business world, and what that does. And I've noticed, having gone to a few conferences now, that on the one hand, you do attract a particular kind of person who's able to hold the inherent tensions in the business world of profit, but also importance of purpose. And so I'm always blown away by the people that come, but also like the spirit of the gatherings just do something to people that I mean, we talked about awe and all these different very powerful concepts that are being heavily researched right now. So what would you say in terms of like intimacy, curation, and beauty and the house's ongoing legacy as a way to build our capacity to hope, to transform, how would you make that connection in terms of like which would be that's part of what you've been doing all along is building
Mm. Yeah, it's funny you say this because when I heard this term for the when I read about your event capacity building in this term, I never thought about it that way. Never heard it as a concept that should be front and center. So I really I thought it was really powerful that you chose it. Capacity, what's it called?
capacity building,
Capacity building in a
but
time
time of change and
of
trend.
change. Yeah. And so it's not necessarily the mission that we set out with, or not, at least not explicitly. But it is true that I think there is a capacity building element to what we do. The three things I mentioned, beauty, intimacy, and curation. So hopefully by role modeling it, by practicing it, we inspire others to also think about like, how can I create a more beautiful workplace? How can I beauty into business? How can I foster intimacy? How can I become a better curator, a more conscious, responsible curator, and for all the things that I do? The hope, because you mentioned that, I would say is maybe the most important capacity building of all, because without hope, I think any further capacity building is almost like obsolete or it's in vain. We just hosted a dinner at the Dubai Future Forum, the world's largest gathering of futurists in Dubai, but the hopeful dinner where we just listened to three acts of hope from beginning to the middle of hope, the middle of life, to the final days, the final stages of hope. And we just listened to voices of hope, not necessarily only renowned figures, but also people from various professions and sounds, and it was very moving. And it's an example I think that embodied maybe the idea of how can you create intimacy, of course, through listening together with 50 people to sounds, to voices, with your eyes closed. It's a very intimate experience. It was very beautiful, as in lifting our spirits, reminding and being reminded of some truths that are maybe or hidden and are often hidden, especially in a business environment that forces us to be productive, consistent selves.
Mm.
And it was, of course, curated in a way, also alongside, the dinner and everything. But at the end of the day, this hopeful dinner had one purpose: to produce hope.
Mm.
And this is such an elusive quality, hope. And we often hear this from people who attend our gatherings or come to our sessions or read our content, that if anything, we're not necessarily prescriptive, that we have this manifesto or we have a codified theory of change that we can implement, on Monday. It's
Mm.
more like a fuzzy vibe and a feeling of kind of community and possibility and the courage, like as in, the heart, as an education of the heart to then step back into the world after you've entered or you've spent some time in the house with like-minded or not so like-minded people, but people who are sensitive to one another, to then drive change and to change your life, or to spread some of the things, or to see the world differently, or and yeah, and hope. I remember this moment when Till, my co-founder, I think it was in 2019, when Priya Parker opened our main gathering in Lisbon, the author of The Art of Gathering, and a dear friend of mine. And she came to us to tell me before and said, hey, before we go on stage, before like just quickly, let's sort of huddle in there. Why are you doing this? Like just sort
Hmm.
of reiterate why you're doing this. And I said something completely unremarkable. I don't know what it was, like a politician, like something, because I was nervous. I said something really, but Till said something really beautiful. He said, I do this because I believe that this brings out the best in people.
Hmm.
That's why we gather. We hope to bring out the best in people. And experiencing that, that gives you hope. And
Yeah.
so maybe that's how I would answer that
Great.
question.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
great. It's one of the things that I'm learning, hosting these interviews and getting prepared for the conferences, the different ways that we define capacity building. And at that, I'm gonna add that definition, capacity building, almost as a way of bringing the best out of people. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I wanted to close out with just giving people an opportunity to sense into the poly opportunity. The poly opportunity, as you and I know, we've been wrestling with the poly crisis, a term coined a few years ago, trying to name the cluster of issues that we're all facing now, but us kind of saying, and that's not necessarily inspiring. And we've been playing with the concept of the poly opportunity. We had an event in New York City that brought together folks from all over and from different disciplines. And we're about to have a global tour. Could you tell us a little bit about the poly opportunity experience that the house with the Acosta Institute and the Holland Institute are going to be co-hosting across the next several months?
Well, first of all, super excited that we're doing this together. Obviously, you were very generous in developing this with us together. The original spark, the prototype in New York in September, and that really, I guess, encouraged you and me and other partners, the Holland Institute, to now turn this into a series. And the the poly crisis is much talked about and it's very real, right? And I think what we're witnessing, this convergence of mutually amplifying crisis is the end of a system, is the end of various systems. They're in agony and they're no longer capable of serving us in the way that they should, or serving our planet, or serving the spirit of whatever being might be embedded in all of this. And I think we have a choice, right? So either we believe that we're in for a really dark age and things will get worse and even worse. And you might think, looking at, the recent US election and, sort of right-wing movements and the return of rights of nationalism, that we're really in for some dark times. Or, we can insist on our agency and decide that in between all of these agonies, something new is being born, something new is emerging, and it's maybe not the one narrative or the one new system, maybe it's a multitude of things. And I think what the poly opportunity is trying to do is to detect the ties between all these loose threads, the positive forces, or those forces that we could reframe or understand as positive, and bring it all together and literally map it out and create a new narrative, a new framework, maybe even a new language, new terminology, new practices, and bring together even maybe trends or forces that seem, disparate, or that do not seem to belong to one another, bringing various voices into one conversation. So we're doing this as a 3-month series with 4 in-person events, from Berlin to New York, Hudson Valley, Tangier to Istanbul. So we'll literally be on if I counted correctly, Asia, 4 continents because of Istanbul, and also in Asia. And we have an online program, a learning program, and we will also have a public sort of virtual forums, public as in free virtual forums. And we've identified 9 opportunities. We don't have to go through all of them now. 5 opportunities, sorry, 5 opportunity areas and 9 called powers. They're essentially meta skills that we'd like to hone and practice with the people who participate, to then move towards this poly opportunity, realize the poly opportunity, speak more eloquently about the poly opportunity, become an ambassador, an activist, an athlete of the poly opportunity. So it's the most ambitious thing I think we've ever done, as in putting a framework out there, or at least a container, and doing it not just alone, which is also part of the spirit of the poly, right? That there's actually a multitude of voices and organizations doing this. And yeah, and I hope that your viewers and the participants in the capacity building event will also join.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm really excited, and we learned so much from the event in New York City, and in a way, with the powers and the opportunities and the becoming an ambassador athlete, activist, sorts. So there's a way to kind of, it's almost as if we're gamifying the our approach to 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 intervening in all the different challenges that are happening before us. So I'm just really grateful, man. I'm just really grateful that we get a chance to do this work. Yeah, just wanting to thank you for your work as we close out the fourth quarter and 2024. 2024 was really intense, and both kind of at a larger level, but also for me individually. And I'm just you were part of the notes and a motif in my year that allowed me to keep a pep to my step. So I want to thank you, and I'm sure that the community is going to really take a lot from the spirit of the house in this conversation, and just wanting to invite everybody to stay tuned, to stay connected in terms of the poly opportunity, which is going to be a powerful experience this year. Check out the House of Beautiful Business. Please do yourself a favor and check out the House of Beautiful Business website. And just thank you so much, Tim, just for your time and your energy.
Thank you, Angel. Thank you so much.